You wake up in a bed that's soft, in a room that's warm, in a life that, at least from the outside, appears to be functioning. The lights work, the fridge is full, your phone buzzes to life, already offering you more stimulation than your heart knows what to do with. And yet beneath the soft layers of familiarity, beneath the well-organized comfort you've built around yourself, something feels off. It's not sharp, not loud, not even clearly wrong. It's something worse, a dull ache in your chest, a kind of fog behind your eyes, a silence that doesn't bring peace but hollowness. This is not panic. It's not grief. It's not the kind of suffering you can point at. It's the slow erosion of aliveness, the subtle realization that you are surrounded by everything you were taught to want and still feel nothing. And no one warns you about that. They tell you to aim for success, security, stability, but they never tell you that once you have it, it might not feel like living. It might feel like hiding, like waiting, like forgetting. There's food in the kitchen, a dozen streaming platforms ready to numb your boredom, a phone within reach to simulate connection, and a life stripped clean of real threat or risk. But instead of freedom, you feel faded. Instead of gratitude, you feel detached, not because something went wrong, but because nothing ever truly ignited anything in you. And that's the thing about comfort no one says out loud. It doesn't make you happy, it just makes you forget you're not. This is what slow death looks like in the modern world. Not the collapse of your health or the shattering of your dreams, but the quiet fading of your spirit. It's what happens when nothing stretches you, nothing pulls you forward, nothing demands more than the minimum. It's when the fire inside you dims because it's never fed with anything real. And at first it feels like peace, but over time it starts to feel like being trapped in a beautiful cage. Everything around you looks good, but inside, something is slowly dying. Because you weren't made for this. You weren't made to coast. You weren't made to be endlessly comfortable. Deep inside you, beneath the screens, the appointments, the controlled chaos of everyday life, there is something ancient that still remembers. A part of you that was built to move through struggle, to feel resistance, to fight, not out of fear, but out of purpose, to grow, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. But when every struggle is removed, when every ache is numbed, when every need is met before it can even fully arise, that inner part of you withers, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, invisibly, like a plant kept alive with artificial light, green on the surface, but with roots that no longer reach. And the scariest part, no one notices. Not your friends, not your family, maybe not even you at first. Because the world tells you this is what success looks like. Control, routine, predictability. But deep down, you feel it. That flicker, that itch, that ache for more. Not more stuff, not more pleasure, just more realness, more depth, more life. So ask yourself, and don't look away this time, when was the last time you felt truly alive? Not entertained, not stimulated, not distracted, but awake, electric, on fire with presence. When was the last time you leaned into discomfort? Not because you had no choice, but because it stirred something in you that couldn't be ignored. If your mind is searching for an answer, take that seriously. Because this is not just about one moment. This is about the condition we're being trained into. A life where comfort is king and purpose is sacrificed in silence. But here's the truth no one tells you, because they're too busy trying to sell you the next thing to keep you numb. Safety isn't saving you, it's softening you. And comfort, if you live in it too long, becomes a velvet cage, one so quiet, you might not even realize you're trapped. But the good news is, you're starting to notice. It begins innocently enough. You have a rough season, life demands too much, your energy is scattered, your heart worn thin. So you pull back, you cancel a few plans, you tell yourself it's temporary. You just need a little break, some time to catch your breath, to reset, to return to yourself. You deserve rest, don't you? Of course you do. And for a while it works. The quiet feels healing. The stillness feels sacred, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, that pause becomes your pattern. You start avoiding discomfort not to recover, but to escape. You stop doing the things that once brought you to life. Not because they're wrong, but because they now require effort. You stop meeting people who challenge you. You stop trying new things because failure suddenly feels too heavy. And the worst part? No one questions you. No one calls it out because you seem fine. You seem calm. You've mastered the art of seeming okay. But beneath that calm is decay. This is how the myth of ease seduces you. It tells you that life should flow without friction, that growth shouldn't hurt, that the goal is to arrive at some final version of yourself where nothing needs fixing, where everything is smooth and still and settled. And that's a lie, because anything that's alive is always in motion. Anything that's real must be touched by friction. Ease in excess becomes emptiness. No one tells you that the things that matter most will often cost you the most. That passion requires persistence. That connection demands vulnerability. That love, real love, will sometimes feel like a mirror held up to the parts of yourself you're still trying to avoid. That anything worth becoming will ask you to become uncomfortable first. But the world you live in doesn't want you uncomfortable. It wants you compliant. It wants you sedated. It wants you reaching for the next hit of dopamine instead of asking the real questions. It wants you choosing convenience over conviction, scrolling over stillness, autopilot over awakening. And slowly, without meaning to, you become a watered-down version of yourself, polished on the outside, hollow on the inside. You laugh when you're supposed to. You say the right things. You nod and agree and never rock the boat. But inside, there's a quiet scream, the part of you that remembers what it felt like to be real. Think back. Wasn't there a time when you felt on fire, when your chest ached with hope, and your hands shook from creating something that mattered to you? Wasn't there a moment when you risked embarrassment or rejection just to chase something your heart couldn't shut up about? And wasn't there something beautiful about how alive you felt, even when it was messy? That's the version of you that discomfort builds. You don't get there by protecting your peace at all costs. You get there by breaking through the layers of false peace that were built on avoidance. You get there by walking straight into the parts of your life that no longer reflect who you are and burning down what needs to be released. Because you're not just tired, you're uninspired. And you're not uninspired because you're lazy. You're uninspired because you've been hiding. You've been avoiding. You've been mistaking quiet for healing, stillness for progress, comfort for truth. But the truth is, you don't need more ease. You need more meaning. And meaning will not arrive gently. It will arrive like a storm that shakes the parts of you that settled for too little. It will arrive in the form of a challenge you didn't want but needed. It will arrive through a moment of doubt that forces you to choose what you stand for. And in those moments, when you are cracked open, exposed, raw, that's where the real work begins. So maybe the discomfort isn't the enemy. Maybe it's the invitation you've been waiting for, not to suffer endlessly, not to chase pain, but to remember what it feels like to be awake, to choose depth over distraction, to choose truth over ease, to choose the path that leads you back to life. There comes a point where the silence becomes too loud, where the easy days blur together, where time no longer feels like something you're moving through, but something that's moving through you, slipping away faster than you can hold on to. And even though nothing is going wrong, even though you can't point to a single crisis or failure, there's a growing ache in your chest, like you've forgotten something important, something vital, like you're drifting away from yourself. You start to notice the little things, the lack of excitement in your voice, the way you avoid mirrors, not because of how you look, but because you no longer recognize the person staring back. You notice how often you reach for your phone without thinking, how quickly you distract yourself from even a moment of stillness. You begin to realize you're not resting, you're hiding. This is the hidden cost of numbness. It doesn't steal your life all at once. It takes it in tiny pieces. It convinces you that you're fine when you're fading, that you're relaxed when you're actually restless, that you're content when you're just disconnected. Because numbness doesn't look like pain. It looks like quiet. It looks like scrolling. It looks like choosing what's easy again and again, until the things that once brought you to life start to feel too far away to reach. It's what happens when your instinct to protect yourself becomes your pattern. When you start avoiding not just what hurts, but also what matters. And here's the hardest part. Numbness feels safer than pain, but it's also what kills you the slowest. Because at least pain demands something of you. At least pain reminds you that you still care. But numbness convinces you to stop showing up. It tells you it's okay to sleepwalk through your days, to check out of your own life. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And over time, those whispers become the background noise you live in. And no one notices. Because you're still functioning. You still get your work done. You still answer messages, smile when you're supposed to, say you're doing okay when someone asks. But deep down, you know you're not living. You're just performing. You weren't made for this. You weren't made to disconnect from yourself just to make it through the day. You weren't made to suppress everything real just to stay comfortable. Because the truth is, life will ask for your presence. It will ask for your heart. It will ask you to feel things fully, to be seen fully, to risk failure and heartbreak and discomfort in order to experience something meaningful. And if you're always numb, you'll miss it. You'll miss the invitations. You'll miss the turning points. You'll miss your life. So maybe it's time to stop pretending. Maybe it's time to stop saying you're tired, when what you really mean is you're lost. Maybe you're not drained because you're doing too much. Maybe you're drained because you're doing too little of what actually matters to you. Ask yourself, when was the last time you said something you were afraid to say? When was the last time you chased something that felt risky, but true? When was the last time you cried? Not out of exhaustion, but out of finally feeling something real again. You don't need more numbing. You need more meaning. And meaning isn't found in ease. It's found in presence. It's found in showing up to your life with both hands open, ready to feel, ready to try, ready to break and rebuild. You might have built a life that looks peaceful on the outside. But if your soul is screaming for more, you need to listen. If your days feel grey, if your heart feels distant, if your spark feels gone, that's not a personal flaw. That's a signal that you've been asleep too long, a signal that it's time to come home to yourself. Not in some perfect, polished way, but in a way that's messy, honest, alive. Because the real danger isn't in falling apart. It's in slowly fading away, while everything looks fine. Don't let that be your story. Don't let numbness write the ending. Wake up before it's too late. There will come a moment, not loud, not dramatic, but quietly undeniable, when you realize you're no longer willing to live like this, and the ache of staying the same finally outweighs the fear of change. When you stop asking, what will make me feel better? And start asking, what will make me feel alive again? That's when the real shift begins. Not because life suddenly gets easier, but because you decide to stop running from the things that challenge you. You stop waiting for motivation, for clarity, for some perfect moment to arrive. You understand finally that clarity comes from movement, that purpose reveals itself through effort, that your potential doesn't get activated by avoiding difficulty. It's forged in the middle of it. And discomfort, it becomes your compass, not because it's glamorous or fun or comfortable, but because it's honest, because it shows you where your edges are, because it burns away everything false, because it introduces you to the version of yourself you forgot you could be, the one who still has fire in their chest and conviction in their bones. Discomfort is not punishment, it's preparation. It prepares you to become real again, to become someone who doesn't just chase what's easy, but pursues what's meaningful, someone who is willing to sweat, to cry, to fail, to rebuild, someone who is no longer satisfied with surviving, because they've tasted what it means to truly live. And yes, it's scary. Walking back into discomfort feels like standing on the edge of everything you've avoided, but it's also the only way forward, because healing doesn't happen in hiding, growth doesn't happen in avoidance, and purpose doesn't reveal itself until you step into the unknown and let it shape you. You have to break the cycle. You have to stop settling for a life that looks fine, but feels empty. You have to interrupt the autopilot, the mindless scrolling, the quiet agreement with your own numbness. You have to stop being available for everything that drains you and start fighting for the few things that still set your soul on fire. Start small, but start now. Speak the truth you've been afraid to say. Take the step you've been avoiding. Say yes to something that scares you, not recklessly, but honestly. Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but to reclaim the part of yourself that knows you're meant for more than this. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to know the ending. You just need to be brave enough to leave behind the version of you that stayed silent, safe, and small for too long, because underneath all the comfort, underneath all the layers of distraction and doubt, you are still in there, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be reawakened. And maybe the point was never to be constantly at peace. Maybe it was to be fully here, present, engaged, uncomfortable sometimes. Yes, but alive. So ask yourself, now that you've heard all this, are you truly living? Or are you just waiting for someday, for certainty, for permission to begin? Because the truth is, you don't need more time. You need more courage. You need to say, I'm done waiting. I'm done hiding. I'm ready to feel again, to try again, to be again. Let discomfort be the beginning of your freedom, not because pain is noble, but because what you find on the other side of resistance will be worth every step it took to get there. Don't die with your real life still buried underneath your comfortable one. Don't let this be the end. Let it be the beginning of everything that matters, right now, while you're still here, while you still can.